Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be doing a competitive Harpy deck profile. So what you're seeing in the gameplay in the background over here is an unranked to the top series. Usually how I make these videos is I incorporate a bunch of different gameplay showing you guys how the deck runs, and then we go ahead and do a deck profile. However, for the Harpy one, since this was a competitive to the top series, which is a series where we take a deck from unranked and we go ahead and watch it go ahead and climb up the leaderboards. So this was a deck that actually went up to top 7 over here in Dueling Book. Obviously right now with everything going on in the world, there's no big actual Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments. There's more so these remote duels over here, but a lot of people are playing online right now, so that's where we're using this deck for its competitiveness. So it did actually do very well. In fact, it placed very high over on the Dueling Book leaderboards. And if you guys want to watch the gameplay and learn some of the combos, the gameplay will be in the pinned comment, but this is mainly going to be focusing in on the deck profiles. Usually with these videos, I just do gameplay and then deck profile, but for this one in particular, it's going to be a little bit different because it's going to be more in depth over here. But anyways, let's go ahead and hop right into the deck profile, and I'll explain the combos and the things that you want to go ahead and do turn 1 and turn 2 to make this deck a lot more smooth against some of the things on the metagame. Alright, so let's go ahead and start off with the deck profile. So first off, we've got 2 copies of Ash Blossom. This is just standard in a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh decks. Same thing with like impermanence, not anything too important, but we're playing 2 copies of Ash Blossom over here, and then 1 Barrier Statue of the Stormwinds. This card is very important as the turn 1 ideal play in Harpies is going to go ahead and end with the Barrier Statue, as it does not hurt your deck. In fact, you can still utilize Swallow's Nest. You can still go for a lot of your plays with Barrier Statue of the Stormwinds. Protecting this card can grant you easy access to winning the game. And since this is, of course, with the new ban list over here for competitive Harpies, Droplet has been seeing a lot more play in the game right now. Obviously, dealing with turn 1 boards, whether it is the Numerons or a lot of different decks that open up with these boards that are like, break my board. This card actually has another effect that doesn't really get utilized that I wanted to go ahead and go over with, of course, your Barrier Statue. So Forbidden Droplet has this ability to go ahead and you send any number of other cards from your hand and or field to the graveyard, which can, by the way, include Hysteric Sun, which will then net you all of those free additional pluses. But the other thing that Forbidden Droplet does do, it goes ahead and halves your opponent's attack of those monsters. And what you can do is you can protect your Barrier Statue, as this card just doesn't have really great stats at all. Usually this card, once it is summoned, your opponent will summon something, try to attack over it, and then main phase 2 they'll go for their plays. But if you can go ahead and protect it with your Droplet, you are a-okay. But sometimes you might want to go ahead and make another play, because this deck actually has a few different win conditions. One win condition can definitely be just playing the deck and then locking your opponent out, but you can still go for the Utopia with the double or nothing and deal a massive amount of damage to your opponent the following turn. So maybe you want to go ahead and just utilize this, get rid of this card, it's totally fine. And then your opponent's main phase 2, when they try to go off for their plays, you hit them up with a Featherstorm because maybe they invested too much into just dealing with this and maybe popping some other back row which you just chained, and then it didn't really matter at the end of the day anyways. So protecting this card sometimes isn't necessary because you can OTK. Again, if you happen to have that follow-up, you can't do anything play with like Featherstorm or maybe even just like an impermanence to completely stop your opponent over there. Or you can maybe get use out of Hysteric Party. Maybe you used a Droplet and you got rid of a lot of Harpies. You can go and follow up with a big OTK push the following turn with utilizing some of the things in the extra deck, as again, you are kind of limited to your extra deck because you can only go for wins if this card is out. But next up, we have 3 copies of Channeler. This is really great if you are looking to go ahead and push with your deck. It also is kind of like your bread and butter of just being able to go ahead and summon any of the Harpy monsters over there. Now, we are not playing the build which would go for rank 7. This was more so back in the day when Big Eye used to be actually powerful in the game when people actually played the Pet Dragon over there. But anyways, next up we have Harpy Harpist. This is an excellent card over there. Being able to go ahead and bounce those cards is great. And then during the end phase, you get to go ahead and add another card. Fantastic card. This card is also at 3. Now, of course, with Elegant Egotist, you got to play some of the Harpies. And we are playing the Harpy Lady 1. So 2 copies of Harpy Lady 1 over here. But honestly, you can kind of swap this card out. It's probably one of the better ones, but it really doesn't matter which Harpy Lady you choose. The boost sometimes might matter because this actually helps out your Barrier Statue, but usually you use this for other material because this is kind of more of an extender than anything. And next up, we have Oracle over here. This card is fantastic, being able to go ahead and add a spell and trap from your graveyard to your hand that specifically lists the Harpy Lady Sisters. So it's just recycle some of the cards in the engine over here, as we're not going to control a 5 or higher Harpy monster in the deck, but it's just another card that can give you extra stuff. And then we have the Perfumer over here. This card is excellent as well. Just again, so 3 copies of Oracle and also 3 copies of the Perfumer over here. Excellent card. Again, if it's normal or special, you get to add a spell and trap that specifically lists the Harpy Lady Sisters, and it has another effect where 5 or higher, but it's not really going to be relevant for here. Next up, we have the Alluring Mirror Split. This card is actually quite great. It lets you recycle a card. It's just another one of those cards that can linger up on the field and get a lot of free extra cards, as this card has the effect where if a Harpy you control is destroyed by battle, you can just summon another Harpy, which if you guys watch the gameplay, this card is actually pretty decent at 1. Again, you have a lot of these cards as toolbox, as utility, because since you're able to search out a bunch of the cards anyways in the deck. Next up, we're playing 1 copy of Double or Nothing. This card allows us to go ahead and make it so we have that huge play with the Utopia lineup, which can definitely help out against Dragoons. Maybe your opponent made like a relatively decent board. You can still OTK them with, of course, this little cheesy extra card here. Then 3 copies of Elegant Egotist. It just really helps out for consistency of being able to go for your cards. And don't worry that you might run out of targets, because you can recycle your Feather Rest, which is kind of like a Pot of Avarice for the deck, and you can start recycling your Harpy Lady 1s, and then you can go into it. And then Forbidden Droplet over here, it's basically if you are going second, this is the excellent card to go ahead and have. Already talked about going turn 1. The ideal thing to do is Barrier Statue end turn. Ideally, if you can have your Featherstorm too, that's excellent. But Droplet can be great for going into those plays where you have to go second, negate everything, and obviously from there you're good to go, making your opponent's stuff all half. The Harpies don't have the highest of stats, but when you have everything, it's looking pretty good for you over there. And then we have Feather Rest, so 3 copies of Droplet, and then 1 copy of Feather Rest. One thing I do want to mention with Droplet, go ahead and feel free, if you open up or you have access to Hysteric Party, start getting rid of your Harpies. You might not need all of these. You can maybe recycle them later down the line with this. But Droplet can also get rid of Sign, which is awesome because you're going to get all those extra pluses. So that's excellent for that. But Feather Rest is just like a little Pot of Avarice. Target 3 Harpy Lady and our Harpy Lady Sisters, and then you shuffle them, and then you draw a card. It has another thing for 5 high, but again, we're not making use of that mechanic. We have Harpy's Hunting Ground to go ahead and get rid of back row. Plus, it's nice for the little boost, but for the most part, you're not going to be utilizing popping back row that often, as Yu-Gi-Oh has shifted up to a game where we're not really needing to pop back row that much. Heck, the back row that you do pop is usually from Eldritch anyways, and they're like, okay, add another one, add another one. So you guys can see where the metagame has shifted up to not really utilizing back row destruction, but if you need it, you can definitely main deck Feather Duster. I mean, it happens to be a Harpy card, so that is kind of cool for the deck. But again, unfortunately, there's just not too many decks that play back row right now in the game. Then 3 copies of Hysteric Sign over here. This is going to be awesome for being able to add the Elegant Egotist, but mostly for the triple searches. 3 Harpy cards is awesome. And then we have 2 copies of Swallow's Nest. This is going to go ahead and allow us to go ahead and dodge certain things. It can make use out of the Barrier Statue over here, which is awesome because you tribute a face-up Wing Beast type monster. It doesn't have to be Harpies. Blackwing's actually made some use out of this. It's a really cool card to dodge certain things and kind of get around maybe your opponent's negations or hand traps. And then we have 3 copies of Featherstorm. Obviously, if you want to take Harpies seriously and play it competitively, you need to play 3 copies of this card. This card is awesome. It just allows you to go ahead and have a hand trap that negates everything, and it's really hard for your opponent to really deal with this card, as there's not too many things that will just stop traps. Like, no one's going to be playing Jinzo over here or something that would stop this from being able to be like active over here. But yeah, being able to go ahead and utilize that card from your hand as long as you control a Harpy monster and just shutting down your opponent for the entire turn. And then on top of that, if this card in its own spell and trap zone is destroyed by opponent's card effect, you get to add a Harpy's Feather Duster from your deck or graveyard to your hand, although we don't main deck it anyways. Again, if you're looking at playing min-maxing, I would say side decking this card is totally fine. And then we have Hysteric Party to go ahead and pop off with those big plays. So 3 copies of that, 1 copy of Party over here, which it can be a brick if maybe you play too many. As you guys gotten to be a very fast game over here, you can't really run the risk of bricking at any point. And then permanents to deal with those plays where you have to go second over there can be great. And then Trap Trick, again, being able to search out certain cards are very important in the deck. But yeah, being able to go ahead and banish 1 normal trap from your deck, and then you get to set it, and then you can activate it immediately. It doesn't matter that you lose the rest of them, because you activate this once, it's a GG for most players anyways. And then over here for the side deck, it's just basically potential like getting rid of maybe super boss monsters for the deck. You have multiple copies of the Kaijus over here, and then on top of that you've got access to Nibiru, and then there are super poly targets over here, Feather Duster, another copy of this. If you're dealing with Mystic Mine, this deck just really can just pop off against that deck, as you can just keep on summoning monsters. It just has a bad time against this deck. And then we have 3 copies of Super Poly again going second, or if you really hate the back row, you got access to Twin Twisters as well. For the extra deck, we got Cyber/Harpy Lady. This is an excellent card, being able to go ahead and bounce back things. Adding another form of disruption to the deck is excellent. Dweller to shut down certain decks as well. Emerald to recycle, so you have kind of 2 variants of Pot of Avarice over here. Then we got Exoton Knight, we got Phantasmal Dragon, which can be another way of winning. One thing that you can definitely do with this deck is not only utilizing Utopia to get massive amounts of damage in, but you can go ahead and clean up that small amount of life points that your opponent might have with your Phantasmal Dragon. Then we got Zero Fine. This is another awesome card that they have at their disposal. And then Chidori, excellent card to go ahead and get rid of your opponent's double cards. More so against slower decks, but again, the game has gotten really fast, but it's still a great card in the extra deck, as you do definitely have a lot of room in this deck. Heck, I would even think that Extravagance could be a card that you could maybe think about considering as you just max out on like 3 copies of this card over here. But then you probably have to drop the Utopia. But you definitely would want to run 3 of these. This is really important over here. But could be a thing to consider as well in the deck. But anyways, we got the Utopia lineup over here. We got all of them, all 3 of them. And then we got Baguska. You don't really need this card anymore. It was a really good passive turn 1 play, like to stop your opponent from doing anything. Then you would pop off the next turn. However, nowadays with Yu-Gi-Oh, just go for the support. It's just really easy. Lock your opponent out next turn and go for game. And then Tornado Dragon, again, to deal with maybe some extra back row. And then we have the new Link monster that Harpies did get a while back, which is the Conductor over here. Being able to go ahead and if a Harpy monster you control be destroyed by a battle by card effect, you can destroy a spell and trap card you control instead. So just pop this, easy. And then of course this will work for the barrier statue. So that's going to go ahead and round it up for the deck, as well as some of the explanation to the cards and the ins and outs of the deck. But if you guys have some suggestions for the deck, would love to know down below in the comment section below. But thanks for tuning in, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, drop a like on it. And if you are new here, guys, make sure you guys are subscribed and that bell notification is rung if you want to see more new Yu-Gi-Oh deck profiles. And again, if you guys want to check out the gameplay, go ahead and do so by checking out the video in the pinned comment. It's got gameplay against a lot of different things in the metagame. I mean, it was basically starting out from lower rank all the way towards competing against the top 4 player in Dueling Book. But anyways, thanks for tuning in, guys, and I'll catch you in the next video. Have a good one. I'm signing out. Peace.